Hey!
So, this was the idea. Two artists, both singer-songwriters, chatting during the COVID-19 lockdown in a Zoom room. We talked about a whole host of subjects we feel really passionate about and aired our views on life. This is Amir, and I'm Parry Ray. Welcome to our conversations, unfiltered and stripped back.
I know last time we talked a bit about our experiences growing up, both within a cultural sense and also as artists. And we talked a little bit about how much we hate a certain stereotypical label.
Phrase,
Yeah, British Asian. So how do you identify yourself? You know, when you were growing up, how did you identify yourself? And when you're asked, I suppose nowadays we're asked because we live in a very cosmopolitan society. But when they say, where are you from? What do you say?
Well, when I was a kid, where are you from? I would say India.
Would you?
Yeah, when I was a kid, when I was young.
Interesting.
Because I think I was just sort of told at home, you're not English, you're Indian. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay, I'm Indian then. All right. And then, you know, when you're 4, 5 and 6, that's just what you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think I was at a friend's house and he was white English and his gran was there and said, well, no, technically you're English because you're born here.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, all right. And then I kind of thought about that for years. And then I thought, no, but that's a point. Because when I'm in India, I'm English. When I'm here, I'm Indian.
Yeah, and that's so weird, isn't it? That's a bit of a head.
Yeah. It is, yeah. But whatever other people think of me as, it doesn't bother me. But me, if someone says, where are you from? Now I say London. And then they say, no, but where your parents from? I say India.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I had the same thing. Although when I was little, I always used to say, I was born here, but my family's Indian.
Yeah.
And that's always been my stock response. Nowadays, I think I'm purposefully obtuse. So when people go, where are you from? I go London.
Yeah.
And then they go, no, but where were you born? And I go, Hammersmith Hospital. It's like, if you've got questions to ask, just ask me the question.
Ask it properly,
don't dance around the subject, because I'm not going to make it easy for you. How do you feel? What about heritage? I mean, I know that your heritage is important to you as mine is to me. You know, it's part of who we are. Do you think that it helped or hindered your career, or irrelevant?
I'm not sure if it's firsthand hindered anything, really. I think, I suppose I probably wouldn't have been so celebrated by the Asian network had I not been called Amir, if you like.
Yeah.
But then, having said that, I think all the other BBC programmes who have played me don't ever ask me about my heritage or anything.
Yeah.
They call me a local British artist.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's just, I don't think it has hindered anything. And I think if anyone had any kind of, oh, what's an Indian guy doing on the bill of this gig, it's never been obvious. And obviously everyone shuts up after I've finished my performance.
That's the best way to be. Yeah.
I suppose it doesn't, if it has hindered me, I don't know. Because I don't feel it has. I think I've just sort of ploughed on through and I've managed to, you know, break through quite a few things and obviously break a lot of stereotypes because I'm not your stereotypical, what people might think of as a British Asian.
Yeah.
You know, pardon me using that phrase, but...
I'll let you off. I mean, I think in our own way, I think we're both... I don't even know what a typical British Asian is, but...
Well, I think I know what the opinion of British Asians are from the outside.
Right.
And I think a lot of people tend to play on that because that's what they're being thought of. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like you see this big group of Asians, they've all got the same accents and they all wear the same sort of stuff and it's kind of street-based and it's almost like you're almost like your own sort of community of grime artists, but you're all from the suburbs.
This is what's so interesting. So when I was, when I went to uni, Being British Asian has become a lot more urban.
Yeah.
The years have gone on, because it was never like that when I was young. And in fact, I remember when I went to uni, there were all these different societies at Freshers Week. And but the one thing that you said really struck me is Asians do, and I think they did then as well, just there was a bit of a pack mentality more than any other society. And I remember, sorry?
Yeah, it seems it.
Yeah. And I remember walking past their table and they were like, well, you've got to join the Asian Society. And I was like, but why?
Why?
Yeah. And they were like, but you're Asian. Do you not want like Asian? And I go, well, I've got Asian friends. Like in London, I was at uni in Bristol. And I found it such a curious thing that I would want to be part of the Asian Society just because I was Asian.
Yeah. I mean, if it offered you something else, then maybe you would have considered it. I think it's just that, we need to stick together. It's like, I'll tell you what, you off over there, I'm going over.
Yeah. I found it really, really strange. I mean, I was vice president of the band society, but I was in 3 bands. So that made perfect sense, but totally. It was a weird thing. I think that for me, it probably hindered my music career, as we touched on last time, probably hindered my music career in terms of my family's perception.
Right, okay.
So it was all very well as a hobby. And if I was going out performing or whatever, that's fine. But when you become an adult and when you, you're living a real life, that's obviously not going to be what you're going to do, because that's not a real job.
Sure.
And so whenever I would dip my toe in that water, it was always blown out the water. My mum was like, what, how can you even, she was astonished. How would you even, I actually think it helps in some ways, because certainly for me, because I'm basically, I don't say I'm a jazz singer because I don't do a lot of bebop and I don't do a lot of scat, but that's definitely the genre that I've always gravitated to from about the age of 10. But now I probably do more jazz pop crossover. I think in a way it's helped me because there aren't that many. I mean, there's Norah Jones and her sister Anushka Sharma, but back in the day, there weren't a lot of Indian people singing jazz.
No, sure.
So I think in that way, it makes you harder to compartmentalize, but actually it's something that defines you in a different way.
Our lockdown conversations on race continue after the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests.
Firstly, tell me about your week. How are you? Because it's been a funny week, right?
It's been a good week. I was with my son Monday, so I'm just reborn. I feel really good now. I think I need that. That was all that was kind of bothering me, I think, in my head. Because, I mean, as a musician that knows that I'm not touring, it's like, well, at least I've got all my stuff. But that was one thing missing, and now I've got it, so I'm cool.
Oh, that's lovely.
How was yours?
Yeah, mine's been good. I mean, I think it's been quite a mind-blowing week in terms of, I feel like this whole pandemic I think all the bullshit's falling away, and all the bullshit's falling away in quite an alarming rate. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like we were all sent to our rooms as the human race, because we were like f***ing everything up. And it was almost like nature went, go to your rooms. And we had all of that to deal with. And for me, as an artist, that brings a lot of self-examination. And then with all the George Floyd stuff and the Blackout Tuesday, and I suppose it just makes you think. And what's difficult is my brain feels very full right now. Yeah. No conclusions, no summaries. Wouldn't it be lovely if you just got
all the time?
Yeah, it's whirring. It's like literally, what? And I think it's so interesting because, I mean, we'd probably have to talk about this another time, but you know, thoughts on black versus white, and then the way Indian people are thrown into the mix, and racism as a whole, but it's impossible to generalize. And I don't know. Yeah, I've been going down lots of rabbit holes, basically.
Oh, really? Yes. Yeah, it's a tough one, because there's the obvious answer, and then there's always a rebuttal from somewhere else, and you don't really know how to kind of just get that one real message across, where we are all one race.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
and the people that are ignoring that are just idiots. Do you know what I mean? It's just horrible that people would even be able to think that. I mean, yeah, I just don't know what to say.
No, and I think that's exactly how I feel. I feel really inarticulate, because do I see colour? Absolutely. I'm not going to walk around, and I'm certainly not the sort of person that goes, oh my God, I just don't see colour. Because as a brown middle-aged woman, I see colour everywhere. However, is that something that's at the forefront of my mind when I'm assessing anything? No, absolutely not. And you know, for me, what was really upsetting when I watched that video was it was disgusting and inhumane. But I suppose maybe I'm one step removed, because I'm not black and I'm not white.
Yeah.
So it's not as confronting for me in that respect. And I think that's what's really difficult. But I totally agree with you. You know, isn't it so obvious that we should all be compassionate and tolerant and accepting of each other? And my favorite hashtag at the moment is unity and diversity, because we should be celebrating the difference.
Yeah, definitely. I've always said that. I believe in that as well.
Yeah. And I think the differences are beautiful, because it would be really dull if we were all exactly the same.
Oh, so, yeah, that would be so boring. That would just be so boring. You'd run out of things to talk about within 10 minutes. And I think learning about other people's culture should really remain informative, rather than what's the word? Confrontational.
No, I
just
agree.
Because somebody's different, it doesn't matter. And I think, well, I've always said that, and I think most people in any of the arts know that. And I think it's really not, you know, we're not minorities anymore. There's a minority of people who are dickheads now, but it's just blowing up everywhere. I think they just get the biggest attention, and that's why people think that it's, you know, there's a lot of things that just get swept under the rug. There's a lot of things that it just moves on so quick through social media. And then so when one thing sticks for longer than a week, then it's got everybody's attention.
Yeah, and, I agree.
I don't even know if there's any such thing as getting justice for George Floyd, really. Because if those guys get jail time, which they should do, that doesn't save his family. And that hasn't changed some of those horrible people's behavior. And that's the bit that needs to change. It needs to start from the beginning. And I don't know where to start, really. I don't know where the beginning is.
Well, I think okay, so that's exactly where I get to every now and again. And that's when I get to, okay, my mind's blown again. Because the reality is, as you say, majoritively, we all know there are certain things that are absolutely right, and there are certain things that are absolutely wrong. And prejudice, for this, you know, racial prejudice is never right. Prejudice, that's just not right. And to think that one life is better or worse, and that's something I really struggle with. To think that someone's life is better or worse than someone else's, for me, is a complete head, because we're all as valid as each other.
Yeah.
I think the difficulty is, because I was talking to Carly about this actually, and she was saying, you know, it all comes down to education. And I was saying, yes, I agree. But again, it's not as straightforward as that, because, you know, a lot of people go, well, the people that think this way are ignorant. Well, actually, there are a lot of people who we would deem to be intelligent who are incredibly racist. And I think everybody has prejudice in somewhere, you know, some way. And that's
I get
realize it.
That only gets highlighted. I think I've always, like I said, I think when you watch how children play together and you see all the different cultural backgrounds of each of those children don't even matter to them, because they don't. My son doesn't have a clue that his dad's English-born, British-born Indian, and his mum's white English. He doesn't see that. No. He can see the different colours, of course, but he doesn't think that the cultural differences, he doesn't think about that. I mean, why would he ever think about that? He just wants to find his Paw Patrol car. Yeah. You know, that's his game. And he wants to kick a ball around with another friend or swim and play with the kids. That's it. Doesn't matter what colour they are, black, white, whatever. And, you know, it's as you get older, and it might be your parents, it might be your grandparents, it might be your uncles, your aunts, or someone that you know who's been jumped by a white guy. Suddenly all white people are bad, and that's just not true. No. And it really pisses me off.
Yeah, me too.
The whole thing. And, you know, I stand against any prejudice of anyone ever. I stand behind the LGBTQ community, and I stand behind the black community fighting this. I stand behind everyone fighting, for sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think what's really interesting for me is I got to a tipping point now where I find it very frustrating that the middle age bracket where I am is generally, they like to just keep quiet. I think that's one of the things that has really hit home, and I have reached my tipping point, as I say, because it's like, you know, there have been some quotes up that have been, silence is complicity. And I'm thinking, well, hell, I'm not standing for that. So I'm not the sort of person to shoot my mouth off. I'll be quite considered in what I say. But yes, I absolutely agree with you. I will not stand for injustice of any sort, any kind, directed at anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think people need to realise it's not all white policemen. No. That's the other thing. I think that's the other side of it. It's like, this isn't white policemen against black men or black women. It's just that it should be us united against hatred, really.
Yeah, and actually, that's a really good point. And in a way, I wonder if there had been a stronger message. Well, this is a very confronting message, that whole situation. But what if it had been a underprivileged white man that was held by the same policeman? Do you know what I mean? And subsequently sadly lost his life.
I think the outrage, though, is really just it stems from slavery.
Of course, and you know.
So even though we've faced certain types of racism, I've certainly have grown up, you know, having the P word, and the N word as well, thrown at me growing up.
Yeah, so has my son, which is weird. I've never had the N word.
When we have that, it's like, okay, that's just straight up ignorance, and you know, I'll fight against that, and that's fine. But I'm not a black person, so my ancestors aren't slaves to the privileged white people like they were hundreds of years ago. And so it stems from that, and I stand behind them to fight, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and me too.
That's probably why it's highlighted a lot more, because, you know, it's not right to just say white privilege, because there's a lot of poor working class white people in every country as well. So it's not just that, but it is the majority for, you know, of prejudging a black man walking down the street. He handed all it was over was a counterfeit $20 note.
I know.
It's not even like he had a gun, like, you know, when all these later stories come in, it's not even like he had any drugs in the car, didn't have a firearm, didn't have any of that stuff.
I know.
That is completely wrong.
I know.
And if he did have a gun and he was being threatening, then even like killing him is still wrong, but then they have to take the law into their own hands. That was a sick quad of horrendous police officers that should never have got the job.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
it's shocking that that's going to happen and no one's going to be around to film it. That's definitely going to happen today. And it's not going to happen tomorrow unless we fight against it. And I don't know where to start, but wherever someone figures it out, I'll go to the start line with them for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. 100%.
When the bell rings, I'm gloved and I'm ready.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, check out Parry, Ray and Harmony on YouTube. I'd love to hear your comments. And come and say hi on our socials at Parry, Ray and Harmony and at Amir Official UK.